Ding. Earth Online Update, Life Achievement System activated. Ding. Detected a mysterious change in player consciousness. Congratulations on receiving the achievement reward of Martial Hero. Ding. Players have been detected entering the police academy. Congratulations on receiving achievement rewards for being proficient in firearms. Starting from Wong Chuk Hang Kun Sai, to West Kowloon Kun Sir, and then to Police Force Kun Yi. If you want to ask who he is. His name is Zhou Quan, PC 15827, which is an indispensable chapter in the history of the police force. P.S. It's not an undercover article. Keywords of the novel. Hong Kong Comprehensive Police Force Whistleblower No Pop-ups, Hong Kong Comprehensive Police Force Whistleblower Complete Collection Download, Hong Kong Comprehensive Police Force Whistleblower Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Ding. Detected mysterious changes in player consciousness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Ding. Detected mysterious changes in player consciousness in the scorching summer. The scorching sun hangs high in the sky. Hong Kong Island already has a subtropical climate, with relatively high temperatures throughout the year. Moreover, it is currently the hottest season of the year. Being outdoors is like being in a steamer. Even under such scorching heat, there are still many people who struggle and sweat like rain. Huanghuking, Police Training School, on an open-air shooting range. A group of young police officers dressed in green military uniforms, wearing black-brimmed police hats, and holding revolvers, are eagerly watching the circular gun target 15 meters ahead. Even the pale yellow goggles on their nose bridges could not conceal the focused expression deep in their eyes. Behind the group of police officers, there is also a middle-aged man wearing a green military uniform and carrying this pair of binoculars on his chest, crossing back and forth with a police baton. Unlike those young police officers, this middle-aged police officer also carries the Sanchai Police Rank Shoulder Badge on his shoulder. According to the rank designation of the Hong Kong Island Police Force, this middle-aged man is a police chief. Since he has an official police rank, he is obviously a teacher at the Huanghuking Police Training School. My name is Su Hongsheng. Starting today, I will take over from your previous ACI and be responsible for teaching you the use of police equipment and shooting training. After Su, the police chief, slowly stood in the center of the queue and said in a low voice, "There are various types of police equipment, and the most important of them is naturally the police gun. The revolver in your hands is the Smith Wesson M10 revolver commonly equipped by the police force. Because of the use of 38 caliber round-headed pistol ammunition, police colleagues often refer to this gun as 38. As he spoke, a serious expression flashed on Sheriff Su's face. He continued in a deep voice, "As a future member of the police force, PTS naturally has certain requirements for your shooting performance. There are 6 bullet pits on the wheel of .38, which can load 6 rounds and have an effective range of 30 meters, and the standard for your graduation assessment is 35 rings with a 15-meter circular target. If it meets the standard, it is qualified. A score between 40 and 50 is considered good, and a score above 50 is considered excellent." Speaking of which, Sheriff Su paused for a moment. He looked around at the group of police officers in front of him, and his expression slightly eased. Immediately, he continued, "Of course, today is just the first day of your shooting training. No matter what the result is, it will not be included in your assessment score. However, even so, I still hope that you can focus and focus again, and achieve impressive results that impress me. Understand?" As soon as this iconic police vocabulary was spoken, it immediately lifted the spirits of the school police officers under the scorching sun above their heads. "Yes, sir." Even though the response was loud and clear, the figures of the police officers remained motionless and maintained a very standard standing and gun-holding posture. "Very good." The reactions of these police officers in front of him also made Chief Su very satisfied. He nodded with a smile, lifted the baton sandwiched under his armpit, and whispered the command, "Now, listen to my command, fire." With the fall of the baton in Chief Sue's hand, a series of uneven gunshots instantly rang out. Bang! 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 However, amidst the chaotic gunfire, there were 6 shots that caught the attention of Sheriff Sue. To be precise, it should have been the first time the gunshots were fired that Sheriff Sue had been paying attention to the perpetrators of those 6 gunshots. 6 bullets from a .338 pistol, and 60 rings on a 15-meter circular target. Lifting the binoculars on his chest, he looked at the circular gun target in front of the student police officer, and a hint of admiration flashed in the depths of Sheriff Sue's eyes. In addition, the grades in other subjects are also very outstanding, and the police academy has produced a fierce tiger this year. How ACI Chief Sue felt in his heart, Zhou Quan, who was among the student police officers, naturally had no way of knowing. He just calmly withdrew and loaded the ammunition, continuing his training in pistol shooting. The excellent result of firing 60 rounds with just 3, 8, and 6 bullets was precisely from his pen. For this result, Zhou Quan had already anticipated it in his heart, or rather had a clear plan in mind. The reason why he is so confident and calm is that he has to mention his cheats. 6 months ago, Zhou Quan was still an ordinary young man from the 21st and 20th centuries. On weekdays, I live a peaceful and ordinary life. Who would have thought that he would fall asleep while watching a short video one night? Upon waking up, I was transported back to the 1990s by a Hong Kong islander with the same name and surname. At the moment when Zhou Quan's consciousness was clear, his cheat also arrived as scheduled. Until now, Zhou Quan still vividly remembers the scene at that time. Ding! Detected a mysterious change in player consciousness, Earth Online has been updated, and the life achievement system has been activated. The joking term Earth Online was used before Zhou Quan when he was browsing short videos, but he never missed it. Even though he knew these short videos were all illusory, he still watched them with relish. It is said that things are unpredictable, and reality is often more magical than fiction. This sentence, Zhou Quan has not had any profound experience in the past. But today, he firmly believes in it. After all, Zhou Quan not only went through a journey of consciousness, but also received the blessing of cheats. Thanks to the vast network baptism of the 21st century, Zhou Quan quickly accepted his experience. It didn't take him long to figure out the situation with himself and the cheats. Zhou Quan's initial identity in this era was a highly educated talent who passed the police force's public recruitment exam and was preparing to start training at the Huangheking Police Training School. As long as he passes the graduation assessment of the police academy, he can officially join the Hong Kong Island Police Force and become a trainee inspector with the rank of a Sir. As for Zhou Quan's cheat, the life achievement system. As the name suggests, it means that when he achieves some important achievement, he can receive rewards from Earth Online. Besides, there are no restrictions or so-called tasks. All gains and possibilities depend on Zhou Quan's own choices. According to Earth Online, this life achievement system was opened only after Zhou Quan's consciousness traveled through mysterious changes. So all the past achievements of Zhou Quan's body have not been systematically counted. If not, with his original identity as a highly educated talent, Zhou Quan would definitely receive a lot of rewards. After all, according to Zhou Quan's understanding of his original identity, he can definitely be called an elite among the elites. New book set sale, seeking support from readers, seeking recommendations, seeking collections, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Mighty and Fierce 15827. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Mighty and Fierce 15827. In Zhou Quan's memory, his current identity was truly unparalleled. At the age of 22, he has already obtained a master's degree in law and a bachelor's degree in psychology from top international universities. It's just a matter of having extraordinary personal achievements, and one's identity and background should not be underestimated. It can even be called a police family background. My original parents used to work in the middle level of the police force. Unfortunately, during his teenage years, both of his parents had already died on duty. It is precisely because of the influence of my parents and my connections within the police force that I chose to apply to the police force. Although the calculation of the life achievement system began after Zhou Quan's consciousness awakened. However, all the achievements of his original self have now been controlled by Zhou Quan, becoming his capital in this era. In addition to the Earth Online Life Achievement rewards, this undoubtedly makes Zhou Quan feel at ease in the Huanghuking Police Training School. Having traveled for 6 months, Zhou Quan has received a total of 2 achievement rewards. One is the physical enhancement reward he received when his consciousness just awakened. According to the overview of Earth Online, Zhou Quan's consciousness has undergone a mysterious baptism and strengthened. However, the current Earth Online has not updated with extraordinary powers. So a part of Zhou Quan's consciousness intensity was balanced to the body. Zhou Quan, a domestic martial arts hero, has the current physical fitness and is proficient in martial arts such as Taizu Changquan, Bajiquan, and Liuhe Daqiang. Nowadays, the Hong Kong Island Triad is prevalent, and the most skilled gangsters among the major gangs will receive the reputation of a double flower red stick in the martial arts world. But this so-called double flower red stick is not worth mentioning in front of Zhou Quan. It can be seen from this that the achievement reward of this martial arts hero has brought such powerful benefits to Zhou Quan. Not to mention anything else, at least the first few months of physical training at the police academy, Zhou Quan's life was like a fish in water. As for the other achievement reward that Zhou Quan received, it was the reason why he just showed excellent shooting performance. At the moment when Zhou Quan officially stepped into the police academy, he received an achievement reward for proficiency in firearms. According to Zhou Quan's current identity, as long as there are no accidents. After 9 months of training, he will become a part of the police force. As a police officer, the use of firearms is naturally of utmost importance. The reward of being proficient in firearms allows Zhou Quan to control various firearms with ease and achieve accurate hits within 50% of the effective range. Of course, there is a prerequisite for this, which is that the kinetic energy of the bullet must be sufficient. .38 has an effective range of 30 meters, and Zhou Quan is fully capable of hitting within 45 meters. The results of those 6 bullet guns hitting the bullseye earlier were completely within Zhou Quan's expectations. After all, there is no proficiency in the achievement rewards he has received. Take it up and use it, the main focus is on perfect control and ease of use. Just as Zhou Quan and his fellow police officers were conducting shooting training with enthusiasm towards heaven and earth. A female police officer carrying 2 flowers walked confidently towards the shooting range. "Su sir, excuse me." As she approached Chief Su, the female police officer spoke in a crisp voice. "Madam." Sheriff Su first stood at attention and then asked in a low voice, "Inspector Fong, what happened?" The 2 flowers are the shoulder insignia of the police inspector's rank. "Big sir, ask the most powerful and fierce one in your class to go to his office." Inspector Fong didn't make any fuss and simply smiled and said, "As for what happened, I'm not sure." "I understand." Sheriff Su nodded clearly, holding the baton in his hand and turning his gaze to Zhou Quan in the center of the shooting range. 15827, unload. Based on past grades, the most powerful and fierce person in this class is naturally Zhou Quan, who excels in science. "Come to me." After several months of training, Zhou Quan naturally became familiar with the various commands of the police academy. He immediately withdrew all the pistol bullets in his hand that had not yet been fired, took off his goggles and put them away, then turned around and ran out of the shooting range. "Madam." ACI. Zhou Quan ran to stand still and then saluted Inspector Fong and Sheriff Su respectively. "Ah Quan, Big Sir is waiting for you in the office. Come over quickly. Inspector Fong smiled slightly and threw a smile at Zhou Quan. In this issue of the police academy, Zhou Quan has a considerable reputation. Having a high degree and ability, one will officially become a probationary inspector in the police force after graduation. To become an inspector, there are only 2 years left for assessment. The most crucial thing is that there are rumors that there is a backing behind this person. It may not take much assessment time to fully become an inspector. In this way, Madame Fong naturally won't be stingy with her smiling face. Yes, madam. Zhou Quan stood at attention again and saluted, then ran towards the office area of the police academy. In the police force, the people who can be called the Big Sir are at least at the level of a police chief. And only the current department head and superior will be called the Big Sir by the police officers below. In this Huanghuking Police Training School, only the principal of the police academy is truly deserving of the so called Big Sir. Chief Superintendent Yi Jinfeng. After jogging all the way, Zhou Quan quickly arrived outside the principal's office. Dong. Dong. Although the office door was open, he politely knocked 3 times. Please come in. The next moment, a gentle and thick voice came from inside the door. Zhou Quan straightened his clothes and walked in with his head held high. As he walked inside, Zhou Quan quickly scanned the surroundings with lowered eyes before facing the person deep in the office. Sir. Student Police Officer 15827, come and report. Zhou Quan remained indifferent, stomped his feet and stood at attention, raising his hand to salute. The principal of the police academy, Yi Jinfeng, is a middle-aged man with a full moon face and a gentle temperament. He wore a pair of round-framed glasses on the bridge of his nose. Even though he held a high position as a chief police officer, there was no aggressive aura around him. Compared to a high-ranking police officer with great power, Principal Yi is actually more like a teacher and educator. Of course, if anyone dares to underestimate the kind and harmonious man in front of them, they will definitely suffer for it. He served as the principal of the police academy for almost 10 years, during which there were countless police officers, and even the backbone of the police force walked out of the academy from under his command. On the surface, it seems that the principal of the police academy has withdrawn from the frontline management of the police force, and his power and position are far inferior to those of the commanders of the same police department or district. In fact, looking at the entire police force, Principal Ye's weight is definitely among the top 2. Recommended. Seeking collection. Looking for a monthly pass. Begging for everything. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Appreciation of Big Sir. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Appreciation of Big Sir. Zhou Quan stood still with his eyes and nose, waiting quietly for Principal Yi to speak. However, what puzzled Zhou Quan was that President Yi had no response except for looking at him kindly up and down. Zhou Quan is not someone with a quick temper, he can still calm and endure for a while. At the same time, he even used a corner of his eye with great interest to glance at the middle-aged man sitting next to Principal Ye's desk, who looked somewhat lewd. That person has a commission certificate hanging on his chest, clearly also a member of the police force. However, the front of the appointment certificate was pressed against his chest, so Zhou Quan was unable to determine his identity. Of course, judging from the appearance of the other person sitting next to a chief police officer's desk, it is obvious that the other person is not an ordinary police officer. Just as Zhou Quan was secretly speculating, Principal Yi suddenly spoke up. 15827, today is your first day of live fire shooting training. How are your grades? Upon hearing this, Zhou Quan's attention immediately returned to Principal Yi. Report, bullets are fired without fail. Guns and guns have a bullseye. He bared his neat 8 teeth and grinned confidently. Zhou Quan has been in the police academy for several months now, and his excellent grades have already spread throughout the entire academy. Even the principal with the rank of chief police officer, Yi Jinfeng, knows that there has recently been a very powerful young man in his 1/3 of an acre. Due to some connections behind his original identity, Zhou Quan is also very familiar with Principal Yi. Moreover, the police force is essentially a violent organization, and its strength is crucial. Therefore, Zhou Quan had no intention of deliberately concealing anything, but instead directly demonstrated his confidence and strength locally. Indeed, he is the most powerful member of this episode. Colonel Yi smiled and gave a thumbs up. Go wait outside. Then, his expression changed and he waved his hand, saying, close the door and come back when I call you. Zhou Quan was not sure why the principal, Mr. De, who had just been friendly, suddenly changed his face. However, even so, he dared not show any signs of neglect. Yes, sir. Stamping feet, standing at attention, saluting, turning around, without any hesitation. After leaving the principal's office, Zhou Quan calmly closed the door and stood up against the wall. Although the office door was tightly closed, with Zhou Quan's well-rounded physique, he could still vaguely hear the voices of conversation inside the office. How's it going? Did you see and hear it too? In the office, Principal Yi sat upright on the official hat chair and said with a hint of pride, A+ in all subjects, and the marksmanship is even more formidable. Principal Yi's boasting about his proud students can be said to have no trace of concealment. But for some reason, as he looked at the plainclothes police officer at the table, there was a meaningful smile on his face. Yi Sir is still kind-hearted as always taking care of the old buddy like this. The plainclothes police officer with a lewd expression glanced at the score sheet on the table next to him, nodding and smiling in flattery. He has a pure background, has never appeared in the police force, and his skills and talents are all first-class evaluations. How could he be dissatisfied? Since being promoted to the inspector level, he has come to the police academy to harass and even harass his old boss. In order to select outstanding undercover police officers and disrupt those criminal gangs by infiltrating them. To this day, he is well aware that his consecutive visits to the police academy to catch the autumn breeze have almost worn away his past passion. Fortunately, at this critical moment, I have discovered such a good seedling that will definitely become an invincible weapon in my hands in the future. Looking at the increasingly lewd face beside him due to his smile, Principal Yi couldn't help but feel a multitude of complex thoughts in his heart. The person next to him is not just his old subordinate, he even had some involvement in the past. If not, rely on the opponent's daring style. In the situation where his friends at the same time have already been promoted to chief inspector, and even a police officer, he is not just a senior inspector. Due to a hint of guilt in his heart, Principal Yi also took good care of this person. Even though he no longer holds real power on the front line, he still holds a high position as a chief police officer. In addition, as the principal of the police training school, Principal Yi undoubtedly provided him with a lot of convenience as an old subordinate. Not to mention anything else, Principal Yi has already experienced things like today several times. Every time, the other party will take away an elite member from the police academy, a powerful contender for the current Silver Rooster Award. The Silver Rooster Head, officially known as the Silver Flute Award, is one of the honors given by police training schools to outstanding graduates of police officers. Only the most outstanding graduating police officer in each class can receive this honorary award. If these outstanding police officers ultimately have a bright future under the control of the other party, then Principal Yi will not care too much about anything. Unfortunately, in Principal Yi's heart, he was very clear about the character of his old subordinate. The other party harbors a grudge against evil and can be called a qualified police officer, but the other party is by no means a qualified superior. The outstanding students taken away by the other party were all sent to serve as undercover agents within some criminal organizations. None of these students will ultimately achieve any good results, either death or disability. Undercover police officers, this is nothing but normal in the current rampant triad on Hong Kong Island. Since the early 1980s, when the fate of Hong Kong Island's return was thoroughly confirmed, those ghosts have intentionally allowed Hong Kong Island to fall into chaos. Fortunately, there is no shortage of knowledgeable and patriotic individuals on Hong Kong Island who are determined to maintain the unity of the motherland and the stability of the island. With the gradual transfer of power on Hong Kong Island, the weight of Chinese people within the island has become increasingly prominent. Especially when the power of the police chief first fell into the hands of Chinese people. The stability of Hong Kong Island is undoubtedly increasingly valued by Chinese people on the island. The criminal gangs that threatened the stability of Hong Kong Island immediately became the primary targets of the police force. Sending undercover police officers to disrupt criminal gangs and triads has become a common method. It is very normal for police officers to make sacrifices and undercover agents to suffer casualties. It is quite strange that none of the undercover police officers dispatched by my old subordinates were able to end well. After multiple explorations, Principal Yi finally figured out how unscrupulous his old subordinate was. Every undercover police officer sent by him is bound to be drained of his last bit of value. This situation has made Principal Yi increasingly distant and angry towards the other party. Please follow up. Looking for a monthly pass. Requesting recommended tickets. Request all support. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Profound Assessment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Profound Assessment. Principal Yi was very clear about the purpose of his old subordinates, but he still summoned the most outstanding student police officer of the current period, Zhou Quan. This is not a deliberate attempt by President Yi to push Zhou Quan into the pit of fire. But it's because Principal Yi is also aware of Zhou Quan's roots and knows that as a proud student, he cannot fall into the trap of his old subordinates. At the same time, Principal Yi also wanted to use Zhou Quan's background to make his old subordinate hit a wall hard. This serves as a warning to the other party not to continue to come to the police academy and make any progress. The love between us in the past is almost being consumed by you. What Principal Yi's innermost thoughts were, the plainclothes police officer with a somewhat lewd face naturally had no way of knowing. After all, he was not a worm in Principal Yi's stomach. At this moment, he was completely immersed in a state of surprise. Unable to put it down, he flipped through Zhou Quan's transcript for a while before finally shifting his gaze to Principal Yi. Yi sir, hurry up, it's still the old rule. Immediately, he greeted with a somewhat urgent expression, I want to try the quality of this young boy. Principal Yi glanced at him with some disdain upon hearing this, and then took out 2 pairs of new socks of different colors but with the same design from the drawer next to him. Since you were promoted to inspector, I have always kept 2 pairs of socks in my office, and I haven't seen you ever subsidize me. While complaining, Principal Yi fiddled with some of the furnishings on his desk. As for his old subordinate, he is busy taking off his shoes and changing socks. I don't know if Principal Yi is deliberately tricking the other party, but those 2 new pairs of socks are actually colorful silk stockings. How many pairs of socks can have some Hong Kong paper? After your birthday, I will give you a generous gift. After the plainclothes officer put on his leather shoes again, he eagerly pulled up his stockings and felt the elasticity. No need, I don't want to drink Lianji's coffee. Principal Yi waved his hand and glanced outside the office door. He spoke up and asked, are you ready? When you're ready, I'll call him in. All right. All right. The plainclothes officer adjusted his attire and leaned cross-legged on the chair, intentionally exposing a portion of his socks at his ankles. 15827, come in. Principal Yi nodded and then raised his voice to greet the outside of the office. Yes, sir. Zhou Quan, who was already physically strong and had smart ears and eyes, immediately responded loudly outside the door. Pushing the door back into the office, Zhou Quan stood tall in front of Principal Yi. 15827, this is Senior Inspector Huang Zicheng from the West Kowloon Anti-Black Group. Principal Yi glanced at the sleazy-looking plainclothes police officer next to him and then introduced Zhou Quan with a smile, he has something to do with you. Huang Jicheng. Recruiting undercover agents at the beginning of infernal affairs. A strange expression flashed in his eyes, but the expression on Zhou Quan's face was very calm. Actually, when he was just outside the office, Zhou Quan had already guessed a bit about the origin of Huang Jicheng. Although it was his first time meeting Huang Jicheng, he had already known about the existence of this person. The world he is currently in is not just as simple as Hong Kong Island in the 1990s, but is composed of many Hong Kong-style film worlds. Because among his classmates, there were names such as Ma Jun, Chen Guorong, and Ma Haotian who had just passed the probationary inspection exam, which made him feel extremely familiar. In addition, there were also Chen Yongren and Yang Jinrong among the police officers in different periods of the same class as Zhou Quan. With the existence of these well-known figures, Zhou Quan is not yet clear about his current situation. Whether it's parallel time and space or illusions reflecting reality, Zhou Quan's heart doesn't care at all. In short, as long as you come, just settle for it. Anyway, he is just an ordinary person, with all the parts of his body separated, perhaps having some value. But when these parts are combined together, Zhou Quan doesn't think he deserves to be calculated by any mysterious force. Therefore, Zhou Quan was very calm and accepting of his current situation. But it's just Hong Kong comprehensive world. With his current background and the power of online Earth, Zhou Quan is confident that he can live a very fulfilling life. However, acceptance is acceptance, which does not mean that Zhou Quan will choose to accept adversity. The undercover agent under Huang Jicheng's command. This definitely belongs to the sinkhole within the sinkhole. Anyone who is familiar with the tactics of Mr. Huang cannot be willing to become an undercover agent under his command. Just as Zhou Quan was secretly pondering Huang Jicheng's gaze was also firmly fixed on Zhou Quan. The scorching gaze made Zhou Quan feel deeply disgusted. 15827, you just came in 5 minutes ago. His eyes narrowed slightly, and Huang Jicheng's smile was like a blooming chrysanthemum. He stared at Zhou Chuanshuan and asked, now tell me, what's the difference between Principal Ye's desk and what was just now? Glancing quickly at the desktop, a confident expression flashed between Zhou Quan's eyebrows. Physical fitness has been comprehensively enhanced, coupled with the foundation left by the original body. This makes Zhou Quan's observation and memory abilities absolutely beyond ordinary people's existence. But any changes that can be detected with the naked eye will not be ignored by Zhou Quan at all. Report, sir, there were just 5 folders on the table. Immediately, without hesitation, he raised his head and spoke out, 2 blue ones are in the upper right, 2 white ones are in the middle, and 1 black one is in the upper left. The black folder is open, while the other 4 are closed. Although the number of folders has not changed now, the placement of folders has changed. A blue folder has been opened, while a black folder has been closed, and the positions of the blue and white folders have changed. Also, there was an open pen slanted on top of the black folder before. The pen is now closed and being held by the principal in his right hand. Zhou Quanming knew Huang Jicheng's plan, but he still had no hidden thoughts. No matter what Huang Jicheng's thoughts are, he has enough confidence to refuse, so he naturally won't hide his sharpness. Good. Huang Jicheng nodded in satisfaction and sat up with great interest. He continued to ask in a voice, 15827, what do you think of me as a person? His current move also has plans to increase the difficulty of considering Zhou's power. Because when he sat upright, those 2 different stockings were already hidden by his pants legs. Please follow up. Seeking support. Please do everything. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Huang Sir, are you obsessed with the thread? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Huang Sir, are you obsessed with the thread? Zhou Quan's previous answer made Huang Jicheng very satisfied. He not only discovered the detailed changes in the folder, but even didn't miss that pen. It is precisely because of this that Huang Zicheng deliberately increased the difficulty of assessing Zhou Quan. Sorry, sir. Facing the mature gaze of Huang Zicheng and his principal, Zhou Quan spoke without hesitation. I have never seen you before, sir, so I am not sure about your character. However, on the surface, the officer seems to be a bit unrestrained. The material of those two stockings is very good. The term recklessness is clearly a derogatory term when used to refer to middle-level managers in a disciplinary force. But Zhou Quan still said that his face remained unchanged. Who made Huang Zicheng intentionally wear these two different colored stockings? As for saying the same, will it offend a senior inspector from the West Kowloon anti-black group? Since Zhou Quan dared to do it intentionally, he naturally had his confidence. Left and right are just a joke, and the background behind Zhou Quan can completely cover it up. In the future, Huang Zicheng will no longer show any intimate attitude, which happens to allow Zhou Quan to stay away from his sinkhole. However, Huang Zicheng's expression far exceeded Zhou Quan's expectations. Huang Zicheng not only did not lose his composure due to Zhou Quan's words, but he only cast a resentful look at Principal Yi, and then smiled repeatedly and turned his gaze back to Zhou Quan. Very good. With a heavy clap of his palms, Huang Zicheng's gaze towards Zhou Quan became even hotter. Despite Zhou Quan's sharp performance, it can even be said that he is somewhat rebellious and unruly. But in Huang Zicheng's eyes, not only was there no slight deduction, but it also made him feel more appreciated. After all, Huang Zicheng came to the police academy to prepare for selecting undercover police officers and to infiltrate the elite within criminal gangs. If Zhou Quan behaves obediently and docile, Huang Zicheng would actually have to worry. How could a gentle sheep survive in a fierce pack of wolves? Only by being more arrogant and ruthless than those ancient troublemakers can we truly survive safely in criminal gangs. 15827, what do you think of undercover police officers? After appreciating, Huang Zicheng straightened his expression and asked again in a serious tone. Where is the tranquility of time? It's just someone carrying a heavy burden and moving forward. After a brief moment of silence, Zhou Quan spoke with a hint of emotion and a solemn voice. If an ordinary police officer carries a heavy load in front of the people, so undercover police officers are carrying heavy loads in front of ordinary police officers. Everything is for the peace and tranquility of the people. Upon hearing these words, Principal Yi and Huang Zicheng's expressions became solemn. Especially after introducing Huang Zicheng, Principal Yi, who remained silent and waited to see his joke, nodded in agreement. He looked at Zhou Quan with a gaze that seemed to be that of a proud student. However, at present, it is ultimately Huang Zicheng who is testing Zhou Quan, so Principal Yi did not express much. Compared to Principal Yi's subtlety, Huang Zicheng is much more direct in the local area. 15827, based on your words, I believe you will definitely be an excellent police officer in the future. He nodded heavily and gave Zhou Quan a high evaluation. Thank you, sir. According to police tradition, Zhou Quan immediately raised his hand and saluted Huang Zicheng. Huang Zicheng also stood up solemnly and saluted Zhou Quan. 15827, you have a profound understanding of undercover police officers. After regaining his seat, Huang Zicheng finally revealed his true purpose, which had been a great deal of effort before. If you were to withdraw from the police academy now and become an undercover agent in those underworld or criminal gangs, would you have the confidence to be competent? After the words fell from his mouth, Huang Zicheng stared at Zhou Quan with keen eyes, waiting for his answer. At the same time, Principal Yi, who was listening, also sat upright and wanted to see how Zhou Quan would respond to Huang Zicheng. Report, sir, I have the confidence to face all evil, but I will not become an undercover police officer. Without any hesitation, Zhou Quan decisively answered Huang Zicheng's question. Why? Huang Zicheng, with a furrowed brow, stood up and slowly walked towards Zhou Quan. He looked directly into Zhou Quan's eyes and asked in a deep voice, did your thoughts just now all talk about the situation, were you moaning without illness? No, sir. Zhou Quan's gaze did not dodge at all, and he looked calmly at Huang Zicheng. Huang Sir, haven't you seen my detailed information before assessing me? Zhou Quan's calm words made Huang Zicheng's eyebrows furrow even tighter. Just as Huang Zicheng was about to ask the truth, Zhou Quan had already taken the initiative to speak up. I graduated from Oxford University with a master's degree in law and a bachelor's degree in psychology. Half a year ago, I passed the recruitment exam for police probationary inspectors with a score close to perfect and began participating in training at the police academy. So far, I have achieved excellent results in every subject. To put it bluntly, this issue's Shirlirong shield is none other than mine. To be frank, after graduation, I was only 2 flowers away from you, Mr. Huang. Why did I give up my bright future and drop out of school to become an undercover agent under Huang Sir's command? Speaking of which, Zhou Quan paused for a moment and gazed deeply at Huang Zicheng. Immediately, he continued to speak in a deep voice, moreover, my elders at home cannot allow me to become an undercover police officer. This series of words made Huang Zicheng's expression somewhat stunned. The meaning of Zhou Quan is very simple, summarized in one sentence. Huang Sir, are you crazy about it? Let me give up my bright future and become an undercover agent under your hands. At this moment, Huang Zicheng clearly understood the implied meaning of Zhou Quan. Zhou Quan's achievements in the police academy are just the least impressive among all his capital. The background behind him is the truly terrifying place. You should know that Hong Kong Island is still under the jurisdiction of the ghosts, but it will take a few years for it to return to the embrace of the mainland. And Oxford University, as one of the top universities in the minds of ghosts. Zhou Quan was able to study abroad and graduate from China, but the background behind him is so terrifying. After Huang Zicheng regained his senses, he couldn't help but cast a very resentful gaze at Principal Yi. He seemed to be accusing his old boss of how he could pit his old subordinates into the fire. This profound background and family background are not something he can offend. Please follow up. Recommended. Seeking collection. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Chinese Police Officer Leaders. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Chinese Police Officer Leaders. Principal Yi lightly covered his mouth and nose with his right hand, and he looked at Huang Zicheng with a playful expression in his eyes. Using the background behind Zhou Quan to make Huang Zicheng run into a wall was originally the idea in Principal Yi's heart. After all, this guy's character is a bit unfair. If you have something to do, just come to the police academy to catch the autumn breeze and lure those good seedlings to act as undercover agents. What infuriated Principal Yi the most was that Huang Zicheng did not cherish those good seedlings. This means that Zhou Quan has a deep background, and Principal Yi is aware that he cannot be taken as an undercover agent by Huang Zicheng. If it were other outstanding student police officers, Principal Yi would not have summoned him to meet Huang Zicheng. As for Chen Yongren, the elementary school brother of Zhou Quan, his situation is considered an exception. Due to Chen Yongren's background and identity, it is impossible for him to graduate from the police academy openly. If he wants to continue working as a police officer, there is only one way he can do it. Through undercover operations. Principal Yi suppressed his smile and turned his gaze to Zhou Quan. He raised his hand and waved it gently, but couldn't help but laugh and said, 15827, you go back first. Anyway, Zhou Quan has not yet graduated from the police academy and can still be considered a junior. It's not a big deal to keep Huang Zicheng embarrassed in front of his younger martial brothers. Principal Big Sir has already spoken, so Zhou Quan naturally won't have any delay or hesitation. Yes, sir. He stomped his feet to attention, raised his hand to salute, turned around and left the office, returned to the shooting range to continue training. After listening to Zhou Quan's footsteps move away, Huang Zicheng collapsed directly on the chair. Sir Yi. Sir Yi. Principal Yi. He looked at Principal Yi with a resentful expression and said with a hint of anger, "The background of the newborn is sharp. Why didn't you tell me in advance?" Principal Yi pretended to be innocent and glanced at Huang Zicheng, whose smile could not be concealed. "Every time you come to Ye's office, you open your mouth and want a top-performing talent, and when you close your mouth, you want a newcomer with an innocent background. You just say that 15,827 is not sharp enough, and your wealth is not innocent enough. I, Mr. Yi, have sent so many good seedlings to you. What else do you have to complain about?" As he spoke, the expression on Colonel Ye's face changed from the previous teasing to a serious and solemn expression. This series of questioning also made Huang Zicheng very clear about the dissatisfaction of his old boss. Huang Zicheng also understands that his methods in dispatching undercover agents are indeed a bit rough and irritable. But there's no other way, the underworld and criminal gangs on Hong Kong Island are too rampant. Since the fall of the Ghost Iron Lady in 1982, the authorities have allowed Hong Kong Island to fall into chaos. Especially after the official confirmation of the return of Hong Kong Island to the motherland at the end of August 4. The senior police officers are turning a blind eye to the increasingly rampant underworld and criminal gangs. It was not until the election of the top police officer, a Hong Kong Chinese, that the police force began to make up its mind to improve the public security environment on Hong Kong Island. In such extraordinary times, it is natural to use extraordinary means. Compared to painstakingly collecting and excavating evidence of triads and criminal gangs, dispatching undercover agents to infiltrate them is undoubtedly faster and easier. It is precisely because of the continuous supply of triads and criminal gangs that Huang Zicheng tries his best to exploit the power of his undercover agents. From a personal emotional perspective, Huang Zicheng feels guilty for the sacrifice of those undercover police officers. But when it comes to cracking down on crime, Huang Zicheng believes he deserves it. Watching Huang Zicheng's face change from green to white, Principal Yi couldn't help but let out a long sigh. "Cheng, I know undercover police officers are also an essential part of the police force." He raised his hand and patted Huang Zicheng's shoulder, and Principal Yi gave a sincere warning. "Those undercover police officers have sacrificed their lives for the police force, and we, as officers, should consider them more. After all, I have been relegated to the second line for some years. It's not my turn to talk too much about how you frontline police officers handle things. But after all, those children walked out of my door, how could I bear to watch them either die or be disabled? Cheng, from now on, you should take care of yourself." After listening quietly to his old boss's words, Huang Zicheng remained silent for more than 10 seconds before finally nodding slowly. "Yi sir, thank you very much for your guidance. I saved it." Calming down the complex thoughts in his heart, Huang Zicheng narrowed his eyes slightly and turned the topic aside. "Yi sir, what was the family background of Wei Zai just now?" Although Huang Zicheng deliberately talked about him, he was indeed curious about the background behind Zhou Quan. What is the family background? To put it bluntly, Quan Zai can be called a police family. Glancing at Huang Zicheng, Principal Yi sneered and said, "If you want to lure Quan Zai into becoming an undercover agent, let his family know about this. I'm not sure if I'll transfer you to a civilian position first, and then directly retire you for retirement." Huang Zicheng's expression became increasingly curious, and he quickly asked, "Yi sir, who are the parents of 15827? A hint of nostalgia flashed in the depths of his eyes, and Principal Yi said with some emotion, "His parents were already at the level of police inspector 10 years ago, but later they both died on duty." Huang Zicheng, who had always been paying attention to Principal Yi's expression, instantly grasped the memory of Principal Yi. "It seems that Yi Sir and 15,827's parents are old acquaintances." Suddenly, Huang Zicheng's pupils shrank, and his heart was filled with heavy waves. "You should know that my old boss also retired from the second line during that period due to some accidents. That's the only couple who met their own family, had a deep background, and ultimately died as inspectors. Yi Sir, Do you mean the eldest daughter and son-in-law of the Li family who died in service? Subconsciously swallowing his saliva, Huang Zicheng cast an incredulous gaze at Principal Yi. Principal Yi nodded slightly. Although he remained silent, he acknowledged Huang Zicheng's conjecture. No wonder, no wonder. Slowly digesting the deep shock in his heart, Huang Zicheng couldn't help but smile bitterly at the corner of his mouth. The Li family of the police force is definitely an undeniable force within the police force. Since the end of the detective era, the Ghost Man has opened up the promotion ladder for Chinese police officers. The first constitutional-level Chinese police officer was Li Shutong, the old man of the Li family. From the police chief to the assistant police chief, Mr. Li has always been the leader of Chinese police officers. If it weren't for the conflict that erupted between the Chinese police officers and the Ghosts after the negotiations to confirm the return of Hong Kong Island ended back then, the current Mr. Li Shutong may even be able to sit in the position of the police officer. Recommended. Seeking collection. Please follow up. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Elders are all big shots. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Elders are all big shots. Don't look at Mr. Li Shutong now, he has been away from the police force for many years. But the influence of the Li family within the police force can still be considered deeply rooted. After all, Li Shutong only retired from the police force, rather than truly passing away. Apart from his influence in the police force, Li Shutong's capital in the political and business circles of Hong Kong Island should not be underestimated. He comes from the Li family of the Shanghai Gang, and his roots can be traced back to the Republican era. After the end of the anti-Japanese war, due to the outbreak of civil war, a large number of wealthy merchants and families from Shanghai came to Hong Kong Island to escape the war. The Li family, where Li Shutong is located, is already a prominent Chinese family with ancestral roots in Shanghai. Since ancient times, Chinese people have had a strong sense of fellow townspeople. These Chinese families with ancestral roots in Shanghai, in order to establish themselves on Hong Kong Island, have always been on the same wavelength with each other, thus forming the so-called Shanghai Gang. Li Shutong was able to become a leading figure among Chinese police officers, apart from his own talents. The family behind him, as well as the Shanghai Gang, have also provided strong support. It is precisely because of this that even though Li Shutong has retired from the police force, his family and network cannot be underestimated. Moreover, although Li Shutong has already left the police force, he still has many former students who still serve in the police force. Even his descendants from the Li family can be considered to hold high positions within the police force. Unlike the polygamous marriages of most prominent families on Hong Kong Island, Li Shutong is very loyal to his marriage. Despite his prominent status throughout his life, he only had one wife at home, with 2 daughters and a son under his command. Except for the eldest daughter and son-in-law who have already died in service, the youngest daughter and son are all living a happy life. Due to the tragedy of his eldest daughter and son-in-law, Li Shutong strictly prohibited his family members from engaging in the dangerous profession of police officers, even in civil service. So Li Shutong's youngest daughter and daughter-in-law are now responsible for managing the Li family's industry. Only the second son-in-law and son still serve in the police force. Huang Bingyao, commander of Yao Tsim district in West Kowloon, and Li Wenbin, deputy director of police headquarters Aji. These two are Li Shutong's second son-in-law and son, a chief police officer holding the power of the district, and a senior police officer serving in important departments of the headquarters. Even though the current leader of the police force has been appointed by Chinese police officers. But in fact, how could the ghost completely give up the power of the police force? For example, the overall commander of the West Kowloon region, as well as the supervisor of Aji and other top leaders, are still tightly held in the hands of the ghosts. Figures like Huang Bingyao and Li Wenbin can almost be said to be the pinnacle of Chinese police officers within the police force. As for the higher level director level management, there is only one Chinese person, the current police officer. After all, the power of Hong Kong Island is only gradually being transferred to the mainland. The reason why the police chief is appointed by the Chinese is nothing more than the compromise made by those ghosts. But I want those ghosts to give up control of the police force on the surface. That may only be possible when the time point approaches 97 completely. The legacy of Mr. Li Shutong, as well as the brother. Law of Li Wenbin and Huang Bingyao, ensured the power of the Li family within the police force. The reason why Zhou Quan was valued by Principal Yi, apart from his outstanding abilities and consistently outstanding grades in various subjects, is because of his close relationship with the Li family. Mr. Li Shutong is his grandfather, Li Wenbin is his uncle, and Huang Bingyao is his uncle. The Li family's daughter and son-in-law who died in service are his original parents. According to his original memory, he grew up in the Li family and was raised by Li Wenbin and his wife. There is a saying in mainland China that goes, mother-uncle is big, and there is a slang in folk culture that goes like, father buried casually, mother died waiting for uncle to come. It can be imagined how close the relationship between uncle and nephew is. In addition, the various relatives of the Li family have always been united, and Zhou Quan's original identity is also out of place to gain popularity. This has made him receive the pity and love of various elders within the Li family. How could Principal Yi not treat a student police officer like Zhou Quan, who performs exceptionally well and has an incredibly deep background, as a proud student? Principal Yi was forced to stay on the second line of the police force and patiently guard within the Huanghuking Police Academy due to the police conflict that year. He, as the Grand Chief Police Officer, may only be able to regain control of the police force after 1997 when the ghost powers are released. Although Principal Yi often says to people that he is now completely willing to retire from the second tier. After 97 years, he was already 48 years old and unable to fight on the front line of the police force. Since that's the case, why don't he stay in the police academy and train more good police officers? Anyway, when Zhou Quan, a proud student, was sent to Principal Yi, he naturally wouldn't reject him. Compared to Principal Yi's indifference, Huang Jiqing undoubtedly has some worries in his heart. The power of the Li family in the police force is certainly strong, but what truly awes Huang Jiqing is the uncle of Zhou Quan, Huang Bingyao himself. Although Mr. Li Shutong has great power, he has already retired from the management of the police force. Before Huang Jiqing completely offended Zhou Quan, figures like Mr. Li would not have personally condescended to target him. As for Li Wenbin, Aji is far from the police headquarters, and Huang Jiqing doesn't need to worry about anything for the time being. On the contrary, the situation with Uncle Zhou Quan Huang Bingyao is completely different. As the commander of Yaotsim district under the jurisdiction of West Kowloon, he is a major sir in a district. Huang Bingyao's deeds are well known throughout the entire police force, and his colleagues in the West Kowloon Police District are even more well known. How could Huang Jiqing, who works in the West Kowloon anti-black group, not understand the prestige of his own family? Don't look at Huang Bingyao within the police force. Has a strange title of a kind gun. His colleagues joked that he had been in the police force for more than 20 years and had never fired a gun in his hand. In fact, since Huang Bingyao can become a big sir in a partition. Despite the support of the Li family behind this, how could Huang Bingyao's own means and strength be so weak? The other party started as a small military uniform police officer and worked hard to be promoted to become an inspector in the Aji anti-black group, which finally gained the favor of Aunt Zhou Quan. During this period, Huang Bingyao's deadly scissor feet, which flew high into the air and exploded his opponent's head with a single move, managed to establish a huge reputation in the martial arts world. The main function of the Aji anti-black group is to target clubs and gangsters on Hong Kong Island. When Huang Bingyao personally visited the front line of anti-black activities, he was even the most skilled double-flower red stick among major clubs. Under his deadly scissor feet, one must also be honest and upright. What makes Huang Jiqing feel the most terrifying is that although he is a senior inspector of the West Kowloon anti-black group, but more precisely, it should be the police officers stationed in Yao Tsim district by the West Kowloon anti-black group. This deadly scissor-footed yellow sir happens to be his immediate superior. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Honored graduation attracts attention. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Honored graduation attracts attention if the big sir of his police station finds out that he is planning to seduce his nephew to become a 2 or 5 child. According to legend, the deadly scissor feet that fly into the air and crush the opponent's dog head will definitely fall on oneself. At the thought of that scene, Huang Jiqing immediately felt a chill in his heart. "Yi sir, you said that after my eldest son learned about this matter, he wouldn't transfer me to the transportation team, or just let me guard the pond." Huang Jiqing looked at Principal Yi with a bitter face, his already somewhat lewd expression becoming increasingly unattractive. Although Huang Jiqing is under the management of the anti-black group in the West Kowloon General District in terms of staffing. Even if Huang Bingyao is the commander of the Yujian district, he cannot directly appoint or transfer Huang Jiqing's position. As a high-ranking official with the rank of chief superintendent, if Huang Bingyao really intends to target Huang Jiqing. So with just a greeting, the commander of the anti-black group in the headquarters will definitely sell him face. At that time, it was entirely possible to either go to the traffic station or street, or simply assign remote areas to guard ponds. Having offended the head of the district police station, where can Huang Jiqing still sit now? "Boss, you must help me." The more he thought about it, the less confident Huang Jiqing became in his heart. He simply bent down and lay on Principal Ye's desk. He stared pitifully at Principal Yi, with a demeanor that if you don't help me, I won't leave today. This made Principal Ye's heart involuntarily tinged with a hint of excitement. "Stop it. Stop it now." Principal Yi raised his hand to block forward and instinctively dodged backwards. "Take it easy. Huang Sir won't have to give you shoes just because of this matter." Huang Jiqing was not aware of it after all, and he did not succeed either. Therefore, even if this matter spreads, the elders behind Zhou Quan will not directly target Huang Jiqing. Zhou Quan and his elders are all high-level police officers, and their broad-minded and magnanimous demeanor is not lacking, at least on the surface. Moreover, Huang Jiqing's original intention was also to crack down on those criminal gangs. Of course, if Huang Jiqing really pushed Zhou Quan into the heated Kong, then everything would be a different story. After Principal Ye's relief and comfort, Huang Jiqing finally let go of the big stone in his heart. "Yi sir, you are busy with your official duties, so I won't bother you much. I'll come visit you again when I have time." Huang Jiqing breathed a sigh of relief, his face lit up with a smirk, and he stood up to bid farewell. Just now Principal Ye's attitude was already very clear, so Huang Jiqing didn't have the courage to propose the assessment of other outstanding police officers. He also knew very well in his own heart that if he didn't make any changes, the past love affair would probably come to an end. "Get busy with your affairs." Principal Yi waved his hand and did not say anything to persuade him to stay. He did not want to have any further contact with Huang Jiqing for the time being. "Goodbye, sir." Stamping his feet and standing at attention, Huang Jiqing solemnly saluted Principal Yi, and left the police academy with a sense of desolation. When leaving, Huang Jiqing even made a special trip to the shooting range to take a glance at Zhou Quan. Although the idea of admitting Zhou Quan as an undercover agent has been cut off, it does not mean that Huang Jiqing will distance himself from Zhou Quan. If you can't become a boss, then you can still be a colleague. Zhou Quan, who is talented in both literature and martial arts, and has a deep background, naturally lacks the desire to make good friends with Huang Jiqing. Zhou Quan, who was focused on target training, did not notice Huang Jiqing's distant observation. With the achievement reward of mastering firearms, Zhou Quan's mastery of various firearms can reach the level of a world-class gunman. At present, this simple pistol shooting training has no effect on him at all. But other police officers are all focused on shooting targets. How can Zhou Quan be independent? Some things can show their sharpness, but it's better to be on the same page with others. Do things with a high profile and be a low-key person. Not hiding one's own radiance, but also not boasting about anything strange. This is Zhou Quan's principle of handling things. Time passed quickly like a tide under Zhou Quan's reassuring training. Huang Ziqing's incident is just a small episode in Zhou Quan's 36-week internship and supervision training, and it is not enough to affect his life. In the blink of an eye, Zhou Quan's life at the Huanghuking Police Training School was nearing its end. As soon as the graduation ceremony is over, the RPC in front of the Zhou Quan police number will have the letter R removed, leaving only the letters PC. And he will also officially join the police force, becoming a trainee inspector with the rank of a Sir. The graduation ceremony of the police academy was very boring, and for Zhou Quan, who was accustomed to the spectacular military parade in his homeland, the ghost-style walking exercises the police force is currently implementing are a bit foolish. Only the senior police officer on the observation deck, dressed in a white shirt and carrying at least a crown on his shoulders, caught Zhou Quan's attention. The police force attaches great importance to the graduation ceremony of the police academy, and the assistant director in charge of personnel and training, Gue Lao, personally came to observe the ceremony. He is also responsible for awarding honors to both the police and inspection teams. In this episode, Zhou Quan and his team had a total of 5 classes participating in training, namely 1 inspection class and 4 police officer classes. Among the student police officers in the police officer class, there was no name that made Zhou Quan feel familiar. Although Zhou Quan is currently within the Hong Kong integrated world, this is also a real world. Where did so many protagonists make Zhou Quan suffer? Yan Jinrong and Chen Yongren, whom Zhou Quan is familiar with, are Zhou Quan's next elementary school brothers. As for the famous 25-year-old Lu Jianming, he has not yet entered the police academy. Therefore, Zhou Quan, the honorary recipient of the police officer class, did not pay special attention to anything. 3 recipients of the Silver Chicken Head and 1 recipient of the Silver Chicken Head and Shui Fu Cup are normal practices. Compared to the police squad, the competition within the only inspection squad is much more intense. Ma Haotian, Ma Jun, and Chen Guorong, which of these 3 is a simple and easy person? However, relying on his original capital, as well as his proficiency in firearms and achievements in martial arts, Zhou Quan managed to firmly suppress the 3 of them. The honor baton and Shirley Rong shield of this issue have all been collected by Zhou Quan. Even the assistant director of the ghostly guy, on behalf of his elder brother, issued the director's commendation certificate for excellent academic performance to Zhou Quan. At this graduation ceremony for the police academy, Zhou Quan was the absolute focus. I have achieved excellent grades of A+ in all subjects, as well as a strong academic background. This even made the senior police officers who came to observe the ceremony focus their attention on Zhou Quan. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. First Contact. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 First Contact. The closing ceremony of each phase of the Wong Chuk Hang Police Academy attracts many senior police officers to come and observe. Except for the Ghost Assistant Director who specializes in personnel and training, most of the senior police officers come from the front line of the police force. Because the graduation of each issue of the police academy represents that the police force will inject fresh blood. The Silver Flute Award for each police officer class, as well as the more outstanding recipient of the Shui Fu Cup honor, are the goals of those frontline powerful SIRs. As for the honor baton and Shi Lirong shield of the inspection team, they rarely provoke competition from the senior police officers. This is not to say that the weight of a probationary inspector is inferior to that of those newly graduated police officers. On the contrary, the value of probationary inspectors far exceeds that of police officers. However, due to the probationary inspectors in the inspection class, the vast majority of them are police officers who are promoted through the selection of police officers. Prior to this, these police officers were already the backbone of various grassroots departments. Compared to others, there are also many probationary inspectors who enter police academies through public recruitment and assessment by the police force. But the talents of these probationary inspectors are often reflected in administrative management, as well as internal planning and other aspects. It is undeniable that they are indeed rare talents with high intelligence and high education. However, in terms of police experience and frontline operations, they still appear immature. Therefore, in the completion assessment of the inspection team, the 2 awards of Honorary Baton and Schlarung Shield will basically fall into the hands of those old fogies who climb up from the grassroots. And these police officers who are promoted through inspection and selection already have their own departments and superiors before entering the police academy. After the police academy inspector training is completed, they will basically return to their original department. Therefore, those senior police officers who come to observe the ceremony will not pay too much attention to the inspection team. Even if it is an honor baton, or even a recipient of a salute or shield, as long as the other party has a foundation within the police force. So it's rare for senior police officers to come and interact with the other party when they graduate. After all, no matter when or under what circumstances, changing one's family can be considered a taboo in dealing with society. Before having contact with the department of the other party, senior police officers from other departments will never exceed their authority to mobilize police officers from other departments. Moreover, the position of the police inspector is not a big deal. Although the number of personnel is not as fixed as that of the management of the police force at or above the level of chief police officer, it is definitely not something that can be promoted casually. The grassroots departments of the police force have finally cultivated talents and spent quotas recommending them to pass the inspection and selection assessment. As a result, the other party's police academy had just finished training and was picked peaches by other departments. If this situation spreads, it is feared that the frontline and grassroots of the police force will fall into chaos. Unless it is the type of inspector-class police officer who demonstrates extraordinary abilities upon joining the police force for the first time, it will only attract competition from the senior management of the police force. And Zhou Quan, the current recipient of the Schlarung Shield, happens to meet this condition. Although his elders held high positions within the police force, he was not a member of the police force before. Now that he has shown outstanding abilities, how can he not impress those senior police officers? As long as one can compete for the ownership of Zhou's power, it not only means that one can have an additional capable general under one's own command, but also establishes a connection with the Li family of the police force. It is precisely for this reason that the high-level police officers who came to observe the ceremony this time have a very strong influence. It's not the big sir of each district police station, it's the supervisor of each branch. A senior inspector from the anti-black team of a district in Huangjiqing district can select talents from the police academy based on personal connections. How could these senior officers who have at least entered the constitutional committee level of the police force not understand the situation of the police academy? Zhou Quan's evaluation report has long been obtained by these big SIRs through various means on their desks. It's just that these big sirs are concerned about their face and won't end up early like Huangjiqing. Face-to-face competition is the game rule between them. After the graduation ceremony, only the assistant director of Gui Lao left the police academy in a leisurely car. Since Principal Yi was forced to retire from the police academy for so many years, this place has long been run by him as the cradle of Chinese police officers. With the support of a Chinese elder brother, even the assistant director in charge of personnel training, it is not easy to interfere too much in various matters of the police academy. Therefore, his visit to observe the ceremony this time is more of a symbolic significance as a mascot. Now that he has completed his task, he naturally won't stay any longer. As for the other senior police officers who came to observe the ceremony, most of them flocked to those 4 student classes. Prepared to start competing for the talents they each value based on their inner goals. The remaining small portion comes from various departments and districts, at least all of whom are senior police officers, and they gather in Principal Ye's office. Their goal is very simple, it is Zhou Quan, who has a pure background and outstanding achievements. Unfortunately, when they mentioned Zhou Quan, Principal Yi could only give them a helpless expression. The whereabouts of Zhou Quan have long been attributed. At this moment, he is driving an old Toyota car towards the West Kowloon police station. "Uncle, how come you, such a busy person, still have time to pick me up in person?" While manipulating the car, Zhou Quan smiled and asked the wealthy middle-aged man next to him in the passenger seat. Don't look at this middle-aged man with a pair of oval full-frame glasses on his nose bridge, covering up all the sharpness in his eyes. Combined with his wealthy figure and smiling face, he appeared kind and harmonious. However, the crown and 2 military stars he carried on his shoulder badge completely revealed that he was not a simple and easy person. The big shot carrying the title of chief police officer is only a few dozen people in this huge police force. When he was young, he made a name for himself by breaking through the deadly scissor feat, and now he is jokingly known as the Gun of Kindness, the commander of the Yao Tsim district in West Kowloon. That is to say, Zhou Quan's uncle Huang Bingyao personally came to the police academy today to pick him up. Since his consciousness crossed over, Zhou Quan has been in contact with his original relatives for the first time. When he opened his eyes, it was the day he came to the police academy to participate in training and learning. Therefore, Zhou Quan hurriedly left the Li family and directly moved into the dormitory of the police academy. Although the police academy also takes a break from worship, Zhou Quan has never left the academy except for necessary needs. After all, the achievement rewards he received only gave him an extraordinary foundation. Now that he can be honored, his own hard work is equally indispensable. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Serving as a mobile force. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Serving as a mobile force. Huang Bingyao squinted his eyes and looked at his nephew, with a smile full of admiration on his face. "If your aunt finds out that I didn't come to pick you up today, I'm afraid I won't have any hot food for the next week. My eldest nephew has been clever since childhood and has never disappointed his elders in the family since he grew up. At the age of only 22, I have officially entered the level of police inspector. And upon graduation, he also received the Shi Lirong Shield and the Director's Commendation Certificate for excellent academic performance. In addition, with his own education and abilities, his future prospects can be described as bright and promising, and he may not necessarily be unable to become the leader of his family in the police force. Appreciation comes from appreciation, but Huang Bingyao still feels more heartache in his heart. My great-nephew suppressed the elite from the grassroots level of the police force and ultimately won all the honors of this inspection class. It can be imagined how much effort he put in during this period. Zhou Quan, who was originally a child, was deeply loved by his elders in the family, especially after his parents both died in service, which added a strong sense of pity. Even though there is no blood relationship between Huang Bingyao and Zhou Quan, he really hurts his great-nephew in the palm of his hand. Now that you have graduated from the police academy, why don't you move in and live at home? Looking at Zhou Quan with hopeful eyes, Huang Bingyao spoke slowly and said, "Your aunt instructed me today to take you home." The deep affection between his aunt and uncle made Zhou Quan empathize with him. Although Zhou Quan's consciousness is currently dominant, he has inherited everything from his original identity, including his family and affection. Living at his aunt's house, Zhou Quan's heart was indeed very moved. However, after some consideration, he ultimately decided to decline this invitation. This is not that Zhou Quan and Huang Bingyao are out of touch. He grew up with his uncle Li Wenbin and uncle Huang Bingyao from a young age. According to his original memory, he owned a 1,000-foot residence in Central. But since his former parents died in office, he has never stepped into any of them again. Before going to study abroad at the Ghost Camp, he lived in the homes of Li Wenbin and Huang Bingyao based on the school he attended during his studies. Therefore, Zhou Quan has no psychological burden on going to live in Huang Bingyao's home. He intended to refuse Huang Bingyao's invitation mainly based on his upcoming duties. Uncle, if nothing unexpected happens, I'm afraid going out early and returning late in the next 3 months will become the norm. Zhou Quan held the steering wheel with one hand and pondered for a moment. He smiled and said, if we go back home to live, it will not only worry my aunt, but also affect the daily routine of your husband and wife. Let's wait until I completely settle down before we talk about going home. According to the practice of the police force, police officers need to stay in the assigned police district for at least 1 year after graduating from the police academy, and then be dispatched to the police mobile unit for further education. This time is about 3 months. To be promoted to the senior level of the police force, it is even more important to have a resume in managing mobile units. Whether it's directly directing operations or participating in administrative logistics and internal affairs. In short, mobile units are a necessary experience for promotion to higher levels of the police force. Police Mobile Force, abbreviated as Mobile Force, with the police force code PTU and commonly known as Blue Hat, is a quasi-militarized riot police force. The main responsibilities include conducting anti-crime patrols, crowd management during large-scale events, maintaining internal security, search and rescue, and disaster support. Zhou Quan officially joined the police force and has already entered the level of inspector. Therefore, the 3 months of further education in this mobile unit is the position he needs to fulfill after graduating from the police academy. At present, Huang Bingyao personally sent him to the West Kowloon Police District, obviously assigning him to the mobile unit under the West Kowloon Police District. After 3 months of further education, we will arrange for additional positions related to him. Okay, Blue Hat needs daily patrols, even after work, it needs to be on call in case of emergencies. After listening quietly to Zhou Quan's reasons, Huang Bingyao thought for a moment and then agreed. Living in the police station dormitory is also much more convenient. At this point, Huang Bingyao couldn't help but feel a bitter expression on his face. He pretended to be helpless and laughed at himself. It's just that you and I have suffered a lot, and I didn't take you back. Your aunt may be able to swallow me alive. Upon hearing these words in his ears, Zhou Quan couldn't help but chuckle lightly. He was well aware of the deep relationship between his aunt and uncle, and when his uncle joked about it, how could his aunt really make things difficult for him? Feeling the gaze of his eldest nephew, Huang Bingyao also put away his feigned bitter smile and turned to a smug one. Although Huang Bingyao's current figure may be a bit overweight, he was also one of the most handsome young men in the police force during his youth. If not, even if he has outstanding abilities, it is impossible to completely crush Miss Li from the Li family. As the two nephews chatted and laughed, the old Toyota also drove to the door of the West Kowloon Police Headquarters. Parking the car, Zhou Quan followed his aunt and walked inside the police station. Before stepping into the courtyard, Zhou Quan looked up at the Royal Police badge above the police station gate. In a few more years, I'll definitely pick this damn thing myself. With a pout, Zhou Quan let out a cold snort in his heart. After calming down his emotions, Zhou Quan continued to follow his uncle towards the interior of the police station. Along the way, police officers couldn't help but stop and salute Huang Bingyao at attention. Although this is not Yaotsim district under the supervision of Wang Pingyu, it is one of the few chief police officers in the West Kowloon Police District. It is self-evident how powerful Huang, the deadly scissor feet, and Bingyao are. Except for the ghost assistant director in charge of the West Kowloon Police District, which other police officer doesn't have a smile on their face. With his hands behind his back, Huang Bingyao proudly led Zhou Quan through the police station building and arrived at a slightly shorter office building within the West Kowloon main district. Before entering the interior of the building, Zhou Quan saw the bilingual font imprinted on the side of the lobby, Police Mobile Unit B Company. Zhou Quan's heart was clear that this was where he would be on duty for the next 3 months. It has to be said that Huang Sir's face is indeed powerful enough. He walked smoothly with Zhou Quan and arrived directly at the top office of the mobile unit headquarters. Albert, this is my great-nephew, coming to you to practice and experience. Huang Bingyao showed no courtesy or outsider. While introducing Zhou Quan, he leisurely sat next to the indoor reception coffee table. End of this chapter.